Maybe walk us through the process of over the years as you started hunting the bottoms. How did you figure out or try to learn the highest odds of success of where you thought a buck was going to work through when he can kind of come from really any kind of direction?
Well, I'll take that back, on back to my childhood there, too. I grew up trapping, too. And I believe a trapper's ahead of the game on anything myself, because if you can make an animal step in a spot that's that big, you can make a buck walk within 40 yards where you want him to. You know what I mean? Or where you set up on him. But I love to trap. And it's not, like I said, sign. You might not see it. If you really dig in there, you'll find the track, or you'll find, like I said, you got to spend some time. When you find something that catches your eye, you need to really slow down and make that circle, look, take that extra time and look. And if you don't find it, you don't find it. But 90% of the time it's there. It's those tracks he's made going back and forth the same way, or where he's walking. Or if you look and you see an edge, but you see that there's like a little edge here and it's kind of broken, and then right behind that, you look in there, man, right here's these big old tracks, and he's going this way and it's coming this way, and there's 6 or 7 days worth of tracks going 2 different ways right here. A lot of people would miss that because they never took the time to start circling and start looking. But like I said, I grew up trapping. I grew up, when I found something that looked good, there's a reason it looked good to your eye. You get enough confidence to learn. You think, man, I like this. Why do you like it? There's something here that's making you think that you like it. So you start circling, you start looking. Right there it is. Hey, this is the reason I like this. This is the reason it's caught my eye.
I got a question on that real quick. Like he mentioned, we were hunting the Delta last year. I was hunting the edge of like big, I mean huge open timber that floods out, and the water was pretty far back, so I had probably 300 yards between the edge of this thicket and where the water started. And that 300 yards was like, you could have played a football game under those trees. I mean, it was wide open. Mm-hmm. And I hit that edge, and I was following it, and I would find like one track, you know, like a good sized track, and I'd find it on that edge, and I'd try to like follow it and find more tracks, and I'd maybe find another one, but I'm like, well, it's probably the same, like when he was just walking through here that one time. And I didn't really circle around. What I'm getting at is I hunted there till about 10:30 a.m., didn't see anything. Got down, started easing down that edge, and there was a buck coming down the edge towards me, and he saw me, and then he was a good buck. He was a nice deer. He's the only really nice buck I saw on that hunt. And then he bombed out, and he ran right across that big open flat, and I was like, man, you're lucky I don't have a rifle. But anyways, so what you're saying in that situation, walking that edge, found one track. Are you saying in that situation you would stop, and rather than try to stay right on that edge or right on that trail, you'd kind of start doing circles or zigzags, trying to pick up, because it might not, his tracks from 2 days ago
might be over here.
Might be 10 yards to the left or to the right.
That's right. You know, and another thing is where you find the big rubs and stuff, a lot of times the rubs are old, right? But you'll find them tracks. He's doing the same thing he was doing 3 weeks ago when he made that sign. Ain't nothing changed. He's marked it. There ain't no sense in marking it again. You know what I mean? So, but his tracks say it's rained night before last, and you get in there, hey, this set of track I can lay my hand in right here, still coming through here with all this big sign is. Climb a tree, he's dead at 4 o'clock that afternoon, you know what I mean? Where he's coming right back through there. But a lot of people miss that. And I've never told a lot of people that, but a lot of the sign I hunt's not necessarily the freshest, the best sign. I try to find the fresh, like the best sign I can, but sometimes you got to go with what you got. And if you can still figure the deer doing the same thing he was doing when he made that sign, and usually if they rub out a run or something like that, they're going to stick with it, you know, unless he just moves, you know, go out chasing does or whatever. And there's a time that everything dries up, we know that. But most of the time, if you really dig in on on something that you think that's worth spending time on, you know, we've all got that inner hunter in us that kicks something in. It's like, man, I like this, but I can't find nothing to make me married to it or make me want to stay here. Well, sometimes you got to kick in and spend just a little extra time looking and make sure you're not missing anything.
And a lot of what you're talking about is just finding big tracks, and that big track hopefully being the same set from that one buck, but like multiple of those tracks within a certain area that shows that he's coming both directions, working through there. Have you noticed, and I don't know how much trail cameras you run, but Have you noticed any kind of pattern, maybe through trail cameras, of how often some of those bucks will work through some of those areas?
A lot of times it's 2 or 3 days before they come back through, you know. Sometimes I've seen them on a week run pattern, you know, where they about a week, every week they pass through there or something. And I've seen them where they'll pass through every day, 3 or 4 times a day for a week, and then they're gone. They're, you know, you don't know where they go, or probably hot does involved in that, and they're roamers, you know, but whatever. But, you know, those, you know, some deer's on a long-term pattern, some of them on a short-term deal, you know what I mean? And those short-termers, when they're there, they're hot. And you set up on them, you'll see them. And them long-termers, sometimes you got to just spend the time to kill them. And I've killed both of them. I like the short-termers because usually they're the first day you set up, you shoot them. But some of them's worth the time too, you know, if you really got. This time of year, a lot of people beat the woods down and stuff, scout. I don't. I glass. I like to glass the fields on the edges of refuges and things like that. That's the way I find my deer in the summertime. So I know he's there, you know, we know he'll be within a mile or two somewhere. Hopefully I can catch up with him a little bit later in the year, but I don't know. Every deer's different too. You know, a lot of people go, oh, you know, you got deer figured out. They got a lot of similar characteristics, but they're just like me and you as a hunter. I'm gonna hunt one way, you'll hunt the other way, you'll hunt the other way. You know what I mean? Deer's the same way. He's got a different personality. Some of them fighters, some of them shy, you know. And those, the ones that are fighters, the ones that usually busted to pieces, you know, they want to whoop everything that's around. But they've all got different personalities, and they'll kind of the difference of the way they move through the woods too, you know. A fighter, he kind of charges through the woods like, you know, he's the boss, and, you know, anybody who wants to try him. He's the one to respond to your calling and do all that, you know. And then there's those deer that just don't want to be seen or heard, but he's there. He's going to do his rutting, and he's going to do everything, but he's the one that's been shot at 20 or 30 times, and he don't like dealing with all that shazazz out there in the open woods much.
well, case in point about one as a fighter, you've got a buck, European skull mount, right behind you off your shoulder that people can see on the video. And that deer, he's got mass. He's not super wide, but he's heavy tine, got great tine length, heavy mass.
Bladed out.
And he busted off his left beam, which is probably 4.5 inches in diameter where he broke it at. Broke tines, broke all kinds of stuff on him. And you killed him later in the season, but like that deer's scrapping with some other bucks.
Oh, yeah.
And but then you were talking about this before, and I want to talk about this deer versus some of the other bucks. You've also had some that like just didn't seem to be like all that much of a fighter, that lived in the same kind of area, big bodied and stuff, but just didn't seem like they wanted to fight as much. What has that changed? If you get wind based on trail camera photos, or you physically see the deer, and you think one's more of a fighter versus one that's not, does that change how you approach how you hunt them, or not really?
Well, I mean, if I see a deer come to the woods with busted up horns, I'm not scared to ground at him for sure. You know what I mean? Because he'll usually respond. But if he's busted up like that, usually he's one of them that they don't bust up like that in one fight. Usually, everything that deer's got's broke. His tines are split. He's busted to pieces. But yeah, he was just a mean deer. Some of those deers are just a lot meaner than other, and as the testosterone gets in them and the rut, they just get meaner and meaner and meaner, you know. And that's what they'd rather do. Some of them rather fight, chase does, I believe. So that's what they do.
I want to stay on the sign reading for a little bit. Mm-hmm. So, like you mentioned, what you like to do in the summertime, you like to go glass some fields, field edges, and stuff. Now, in season, what is your process? Let's say that you're starting out, or maybe it's a rut. You're trying to get on the deer. It sounds like you're looking for the rubs and the scrapes as a starting point, and then you're kind of expanding out from there and trying to find those tracks and those subtle trails. Walk me through, like, if you're starting from square one and you're wanting to go out there and locate a buck to kill. Let's say it's pre-rut rut. What are you doing?
Oh, I'm gonna hit first off where there's a lot of oaks. You know what I mean? A lot of feed. You know, the acorns are falling that time of year. And then I'm going to try to find some does where they're feeding, you know, because that's what he's going to be checking for. And then what I do basically, if I'm hunting a place in the year, what I'm doing is I go in and if I'm hunting in there and I say I've got a camera in there and there's 6 does feeding at this oak tree, right? I log that in the back of my brain, okay? And then say I'm just walking in there, I jump 6 does in there, you know? Well, they're living there. Does don't move a lot. I mean, they move around a little bit, but they don't move a lot. Usually their circle's pretty tight. So I know those, 3 mature does, 3 babies, or whatever it is right there. Okay, I go on down, I hook around the edge of this lake. I jump another doe group right there. Well, that's what is going to start keying me in. And, the bucks are going to mark the ones. Reason he's making that sign, that's his way of telling you, hey, these does, there's one of these that's going to be in heat the next 3 or 4 days. Because you won't just see his sign. You'll see the little scrapes over here. You'll see the big scrapes here. And usually he's the last one to the party, the big one. And when his sign starts popping up, you better get in there because one of them's about to come in heat. And he'll take her. He'll take her from the rest of them. They might run her around for 2 or 3 days before she actually comes in heat. Then he's going to come in there and take her, lock her down. And that's when I like to kill them. When they lock them does down like that.
Yeah. So what does that big sign look like? Are you just referring to the track, or are you telling it's a big buck from the rubs and scrapes
Rubs
too?
and scrapes usually. Big buck, he's going to scrape. What Mr. Crawford always told me, he said, if he's got a scrape the size of the number 3 wash tub, and he said it's dug in an inch or 2, he said he's worth hunting. If his rub's the size of a Coke can, this high, he's worth hunting. You know what I mean? But the bigger rubs, I've seen big bodied deer, great big bodied deer with not a lot of horns make some big sign. Don't get me wrong. Yeah, it's unreal. But usually if it's got to be bigger than a skull can for me to even mess with usually. And the higher the better. When it's marked up real high, I know he's something.